Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us this Sunday. This is a continuation of the Hoard of Tales Women in Gaming Month, showcasing women in the TTRPG space. My name's Jenna. I am not the GM necessarily, but I'll be facilitating a game of the Quiet Year today. We'll jump into that a little bit in a little bit here, but first I'll let my gaming partners introduce themselves. Sorry, go ahead, Philippa.
Hi everyone, I'm Philippa. You can find me on Twitter at @MortPhilippa. I play a lot of different TTRPGs. I also write a few things, D&D supplements. I make little games on itch.io, and I do a bit of drawing, so I'm excited for us to do drawing some maps today. And that's me.
Okay, I'm left over. I'll go ahead. My name is Lena. You can find me under the handle Sonderkind on Tumblr, Twitter, and Instagram, where I sometimes do digital art. And I'm also in the German D&D campaign that you can see on this very channel every other Wednesday.
Awesome, and I'm. You can find me on Twitter at Philo-Ginny. It should be written on the screen there. It's a strange spelling, but yeah, like I said, I'm not the GM necessarily, but I'm going to facilitate the Quiet Year today, which is a collaborative map making and world building game. It's set in a post-apocalyptic society. It's really collaborative. There's no GM. You don't need a lot of prep. It's all kind of self-contained in the game package. So it's nice if you want to kind of explore the creativity of a world building game, if you don't have a ton of DM experience and you'd like to build some of that up. And it's really fun because it can go any number of ways depending on who's at the table and which cards you're drawing at what point. So that's the basic intro to the game. Just to allow folks to kind of know how we're going to be building and playing this game, I thought I'd run through some of the basic overview rules, including now this should be up on the screen for everyone, including the players. So this is a map drawing game. We are collectively exploring the struggles of a community trying to rebuild after the collapse of civilization. So it's a game about community, difficult choices, and landscapes. When we play, we are making decisions about the community, decisions that we are going to record onto this map that is constantly evolving. Parts of this map are going to be the literal cartography of the landscape. Other parts are going to be symbolic of people or characters or interactions, things that are happening. And we're going to work together to to steer this community, but also to kind of play devil's advocate and introduce problems and tensions into the game. So the opening story then, where we are, what has brought us here. For a long time, we as a community were at war with the jackals. Now we've finally driven them off. We are left with a year of relative peace. That is the time in which we're playing. So we have one quiet year with which to build our community up, learn how to work together. But come winter, the frost shepherds will arrive and we might not survive the encounter, and that's when our game will end. But we don't know about that yet. What we know is that right now in this moment, there is an opportunity to build something, and that's what we will be building together. So we, as players, are not characters within this community. We are sort of forces looking down upon the community from a distance. So we're not going to be embodying specific characters. We are going to be making decisions for the community and building up the space collaboratively. And as such, we need to be somewhat dispassionate. We obviously care about this community and what happens to them, but it's more fun if we introduce complications and complex issues for them to puzzle their way through. So the basic gameplay is that we'll be creating this map together. We'll be drawing cards, which determine or state actions to take in each turn that affect the community. And then we will be taking an additional action, which allows us to kind of further expand on that. So I will share this here. We're looking at our map space here. This is where we're designing the map. On the right-hand side here, we've got a space to track projects. Projects are something that we collaboratively work on as a community to help improve the community, to increase our resources. We'll be tracking those on a weekly basis. And we've also got a space to track the abundances of the community. Those are resources that we have in our supply, scarcities in the community, which we have but are not necessarily in good supply. And then also the people in the community. And the people include us. We'll touch on that a little bit later. And how we as omniscient players feel about the decisions that we're collaboratively making together. So I think we should just jump into it. It's a little easier to understand how the game is played as we play through it. So we're going to start by sketching the terrain. So together, Lena and Philippa, we are going to establish the general terrain, the general habitat where we want to be playing this game, where it's going to be set in terms of the general environment. So did either of you have any particular ideas or places you think might be interesting to set a post-apocalyptic community?
If Philippa doesn't want to start, I will just throw in that I'm always a sucker for coastal environments. I like coastlines.
Ooh.
I like water stuff. That sounds good.
I also like coastlines. Do we feel like a sort of like a tropical coastline or like a harsh sort of fjord type coastline? Is there one direction or another that anyone's leaning?
Basically, the default for me is a fjord or a bit of a stormy coastline, which is mostly just because I'm Northern European and that's what we have here.
Yeah, I could get with some rock pools and some shale beaches and a bit of
some rock pools,
weather.
some shale beaches. Awesome. Yeah, I think I like that a lot. So I am a artist by no means, but that's okay because none of us have to be. So I will just start with a very basic sort of, I don't know, let's say this is our coastline here, and we've got the ocean. Those are waves. And then the land will be in this sort of empty space off to the right. So we've got a coast. We can say maybe there's some cliffs along the way, maybe there's some shallower areas, but we can define those later. So the next step then is going to be each of us is going to determine a particular feature. So we're going to flesh out this landscape a little bit more. The community occupies the space entirely. So there can be specific areas that we define later, but for now we're going to define the sort of general habitat. So Philippa, how about you kick it off and add something to our map?
I think I'm going to go with my little rock pool idea.
Yeah.
I think they're kind of down this side, so I'm going to draw some little little rock pools. Yeah. There's some like algae and stuff on them, and little crabs and things.
Awesome. Perfect. Lena, what would you like to add?
Since I already started talking about the area that I live in, I'll actually add another common thing around here, and it's the lighthouse. It's a tiny bit of shore.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll just put it up, let's say around here. And it has a bit of a rocky foundation over here. It has stripes because it's a lighthouse. Shines a little. And there is a broken bridge of sorts that connects it to the landline, but it's currently not accessible.
Okay. I like that a lot. Okay, so we've got rock pools, we've got a lighthouse. What would I like to add? I think as the coastline sort of fades into the land, I'd like to add a series of Now, being in Europe, you folks are probably more familiar with this landscape, but near Montreal, where I live in Quebec City, there's an old battlefield, and it has grown over in the hundreds of years, but you can still see the pock marks where all the cannons have hit. So I think there is an old battlefield with rolling hills away from the coastline. Okay, so that's the start of our map. This is what we're working with here. We're going to now go through and determine what resources are available to our community. And the thing about the quiet year is that if we define a resource, it is important to the community. And that just means that we don't have to cover all the basics like food, shelter, clothing, and where we're going to get all of those things, but we're going to highlight maybe some that are unique or that are particularly important to our community. And that can be, they can be physical resources, they can be emotional or social resources, they can be really anything. So we're just naming the resources for now. We're not going to determine which ones are more abundant or more scarce, but Philippa, if you'd like to go ahead and define a resource that we could play with, go for it.
I feel like a cool one would be, are we okay to introduce some weirdness?
Yeah, totally.
Maybe. So I'm feeling like some of that algae in the rock pools is like bioluminescent. And so we have bioluminescent algae that is important because it's a light source.
Great. You're going to make me spell bioluminescent. I think that's
just for algae is fine. Right, algae.
Yeah, I'll leave that. I'll drag it into which one we determine is going to be.
Yeah.
And if you want to draw a little representation of the bioluminescent algae, go ahead.
I will do that with a different color.
So Lena, what resource would you like to introduce into our map space?
It is a bit of a basic one, but I think it would be interesting is drinkable water, because we have a lot of water in the ocean, but all of that is salt water.
I like that a lot. So drinkable water, another one of our resources. And I think going back to my area, because we're on an old ancient battlefield, I would like to say we have a lot of buried iron. So there's a lot of iron from various weapons and fortiments that have been long buried in the ground. So we've got iron deposits in the ground there. So now that we've got these, and I will actually, I'll draw mine as we're discussing, but what would be a sort of interesting, so we're going to name one of these is going to be in abundance, so it's easily accessible, it's easy to stockpile or manage, and the other two are going to be scarce in the community. So they are present, but they are less abundant, basically. Does anyone have any thoughts on what would be interesting as a combination for abundance versus scarcities for these?
So I think drinkable water being scarce makes a lot of sense, as Lena said.
I think that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, I think in return the algae would actually be quite abundant, since it is probably a very humid climate. So I imagine they would actually grow happily there.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And then we'd have some iron, but maybe there's lots of it, but it's very hard to get
and we need it to like build our shelters and things and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. So we've got we're just loaded with bioluminescent algae.
Which might cause problems as well, I suppose.
Yeah, drinkable water is scarce, and this buried iron is maybe abundant, but very hard to get to. So that's where we're at. We've got this coastal landscape. We've got an old broken down lighthouse. We've got rock pools with bioluminescent algae. We've got an ancient battleground with iron and other various buried armaments. So this is where we are going to jump into the actual gameplay and using the cards to determine how our community in this space is going to function. I'm going to just toss something up on the screen here. So the gameplay will be as follows. Each week, whoever the active player is going to draw a card. The audience won't see the cards, neither will we. The only person who's going to see the card is the person reading it, because often they have options or information that is up to the active player to decide how they're going to carry it out. So they'll read their card, they will choose which action they're going to take, they're going to follow it according to the card. Any projects that we have started, and I'll talk about how we track those projects, but the projects all count down by 1 week. So they get closer to being completion, and we will resolve any projects that have been completed. And then the player takes an action, an additional action in addition to the card. And the actions are the ones on the right here. So we can either discover something new, which is exactly what it sounds like. It can be something physical, it can be something social, it can be something supernatural, but it introduces a new situation or difficulty. So discovering new things is a way to kind of shake up the status quo. We're not discovering, wow, we just found a new cache of food and we're completely abundant in food now. It's more to introduce mystery or conflict. You can hold a discussion, which is exactly what it sounds like. The player in question will start a discussion about a topic that is relevant to the community. Everyone gets to weigh in. Or they can start another project. And a project is different from discovering something new in that it is something we work towards on a weekly basis that has sort of a definite timeline. And it is something that will benefit the community. So whereas discovering something new might shake things up and make things more difficult, starting a project will help make it easier for the community to function. It might introduce new resources, it might resolve conflicts, etc. So that's the basic gameplay of the week. We will be existing in this space and going through like a calendar year. So each card represents 1 week, and each suite of the cards represents a different season. So we're going to start in spring, and I'll start us off just so that everyone kind of knows how a turn will go down, and then we'll move in the same order. So we'll go to Philippa and then Lena afterwards. So I'm going to draw a card here. I'm going to read my card. Okay. So my card is, or rather the action I'm going to take from it is that an old piece of machinery is discovered. Broken, but perhaps reparable. What is it, and what would it be useful for? So I think in keeping with this theme of this old battleground, I actually think there is unearthed an old trebuchet, which I'm realizing I don't know how to draw a trebuchet, but you know, we've got the weight on the end here, we got the rope that's like this, and maybe it's in worse repair than this, but this is a trebuchet, and it's broken right now, but who knows, perhaps one day we can get it working. And in fact, that is the action that I'm going to take for my turn. I'm going to start a project that is going to just be called Repair Trebuchet, because we don't know how we can use this at any point, but I want to start it. So, is it J or it's J like that? So I've started this project, but collectively we're going to decide how long we think it should take. So what seems realistic for repairing a trebuchet? The maximum is usually 6 weeks. The minimum is 1 week, but depending on the circumstances, it can be longer.
Well, I feel like if we're in a post-apocalyptic community, no one's going to have the knowledge immediately of how it would work. So it's a bit longer.
Yeah.
You need to sand it down and things like that. So 4 or 5 weeks, maybe?
Yeah, I think 5 weeks sounds fair. Lena, does that sound fair to you?
I would play in that general ballpark, but I would say maybe more towards 4 weeks, because a trebuchet, while unknown, is not overly complicated technology. It's not like we're trying to build a car from scratch.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, 4 seems fair.
Yeah.
So I'm going to mark, we'll just do 4 little tick marks. And this is going to mark the progress. So in each subsequent turn, we'll knock this down by 1 each time. And when it reaches 0, that's when the project is complete. So that's a turn. Hopefully that makes sense for everyone. And Philippa, if you'd like to draw a spring card and take your turn.
Okay. Ooh. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go for, there's a giant man-made structure on the map. Where is it and why is it abandoned? And so I think, I know we're doing a lot of stuff on this battleground, but I feel like that's very relevant to this as well. A giant man-made structure. Sorry, I'll just read it again. A giant man-made structure. Where is it? Why is it abandoned? I'm feeling like a kind of a big wall would be kind of cool. Gate, kind of near the edge of the map, blocking off some of this battlefield. So I'm going to draw like a gatehouse.
Cool. I like it.
That is locked as well. And it kind of extends. But I think some bits of that.
Okay. Yeah, I like that a lot.
And then, so then I can either discover something new, hold a discussion, start a project. Gosh, it's tricky at the start of the game, isn't it, to decide what you should do?
It is.
I would like to hold a discussion. Okay, and so if I do a statement, I go first, right?
Yes. So if we hold a discussion, yeah, no problem. Holding a discussion, like I said, it expands on the dynamics of the community. If you would like to hold a discussion, you can either start it with a question. If you start with a question, everyone else weighs in, and then you provide your answer at the end. If you start with a statement, you make your statement, you make your case, and then you're done, and everyone else weighs in. So it's just a way to kind of, so go for it, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to do a statement, which is some members of the community think we should use the trebuchet to create a water filtration system.
Ooh.
Rather than as a trebuchet, is a statement.
Okay. I would agree. I'd say, yes, there's probably valuable materials. Maybe we can play with a gravity filtration system. Using this as a water resource rather than a weapon makes sense.
Yeah, I do get the point behind that, but I would like to remind everyone that there's also a wall nearby that is broken down with a trebuchet, and it sort of looks like the previous civilization was trying to defend against something, and it might not be a great idea to pull away the trebuchet.
Cool.
Okay.
So down the projects as well.
Yeah, I'm just redrawing that, but yeah, so that's basically it for a discussion. We have introduced potentially a point of conflict. So now we have community members who would like to use this for a water filtration system, community members who would like to keep it as a, like it's sort of a defense. And that's that. So we'll make note of that little point of contention. We'll keep it in our minds, but we'll continue with Lena. Go ahead.
All right. I feel like I've got the same card as Philippa had before me.
Oh, did you click on the top?
Yeah,
the top of the deck?
Maybe I just misclicked. I'll try again. Oh yeah, this is different. I'll go with this. Okay, so the card I have got is that a young boy has started digging in the ground and discovers something unexpected. Ooh. And what I'm gonna turn this into is that the young boy has, of course, dug around in the old battlefield, because where else would young children be digging around? And he has found an unexploded bomb that will probably need to be defused.
Oh, I like that a lot. If you'd like to draw a bomb on the map somewhere, we'll have that as a representation.
The kid probably thought the trebuchet was really cool, so he stayed inside, and I'll put the bomb around here. Maybe we might have to worry about destroying the wall if we accidentally set it off.
Okay.
That looks like a bomb, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, as an action, I would actually also like to start a project. Because we've already pointed out that there might be something behind that wall that we don't want to meet. And we should probably get a group of people as some sort of scouting team and maybe try to venture beyond the wall a little and figure out what's going on behind.
Okay, so you'd like to put together a team to go behind the wall, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Call that wall exploration team. So how do you envision this? Are you convincing people to join the cause? Are you just getting the necessary supplies because everyone's already on board? How do you envision this?
I think because it's a large, scary wall right in front of our noses, it's not too hard to find people willing to do it. What might be a little more difficult is like survival training, in a sense where we can just send them out for 1 to 2 weeks and actually have them come back with information that we need.
Okay, makes sense. How long do you think that this would take?
I would clock this in at around 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how much we want to discover, which would include 1 week of actually preparing the team and 1 to 2 weeks of doing cool discoveries.
That makes sense. Philippa, do you
I think
that makes sense?
Would be good. A week of training, a week out, a week back.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good.
Okay, I will make a note of that. 3 little tick marks. And I have been counting down the trebuchet one as well. So, great. Lena's just started a project and it's back to me. So I will draw a card. Okay. My card says that 2 of the community's younger members get into a fight. So what provoked them? I think there's a young community member who wants to lead the expedition team, and there's another community member who thinks that they actually are better off to lead the expedition team. One maybe has the social skills, but one has the survival skills necessary, and they are both feuding about that. So while the project is continuing, there is maybe some animosity brewing, and I'm gonna denote that with 2 angry faces near the wall. So that's my card. For my action, I'm going to discover something new. I think what I'm going to discover is that the lighthouse on the full moon emits a strange wailing noise. There's an eerie, sort of ghostly wailing that can be heard. I'll denote that with this weird squiggly music note kind of thing. That, yeah, on the every, well, maybe not every full, maybe every, week and a half or so, we hear this creepy wailing coming from the lighthouse. And that will be my turn. I will mark down the projects as well. But Philippa, you can jump into yours as I'm counting down the clocks.
So, let's see what I got. Oh, okay. Well, this one works perfectly. There's another community somewhere on the map. Where are they? What? I can't read it because it's what sets them apart from you?
Oh.
I think they're behind the wall, in which case I need to move the wall a little bit. Just gonna move the wall. Oh no! Oh, I've made an error.
Oh.
Hang on. I'm gonna move the wall down because our project will eventually meet this other community that has been set apart because of the wall.
Yeah.
And I think they're also set apart because they don't like the sea. That's why they haven't come here. They are they hate water for some reason.
Okay.
I think that's all we'll say for now. But I'm going to therefore depict them in a sort of a red to show that they don't want to get wet.
Maybe if they really hate water, their choice of settlement wasn't the best.
Yeah, they're sort of like trying to stick away. They're like kind of over here. Oops.
Okay, so we got the water haters behind the wall.
Yeah,
I like that.
Water haters.
Yeah, they moved by the ocean, but to fix that situation, they
we'll find out more about it. But I feel like it's something that like they think the ocean's dangerous or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So our projects tick down. Ooh, we're almost done with the trebuchet. And then, okay, what should I do with my action? I'm gonna start a project to mend the bridge to the lighthouse because we want to investigate the strange noises that happen and maybe steal some supplies from the lighthouse.
Yeah.
I feel like because our iron is in short supply, I feel like this might take us quite a long time because we need to like gather enough supplies to build it. The actual building might not take that long, but the gathering of stuff might take a while. So perhaps if we make this a longer project and also more mystery, perhaps like 5 weeks.
Yeah, I would agree.
Go wrong.
Yeah, building would actually be different because we are literally building on the sea.
Yeah, so it would be pretty hard. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think tending towards the maximum time that we can take makes sense.
Maybe 6 weeks.
Say, yeah, I think it makes sense too that not only do we have to gather this, but building a bridge across a roaring ocean might be difficult. So I'll give it the full 6 weeks.
Yeah, we got to wait for the tide to be low, all of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sorry, go ahead, Lena.
Yeah, I'll draw a card. I'm gonna say that I have seen a good omen, which is that the amount of bioluminescent algae that we have a lot of anyways, but they have been more on the rocky foundation of the lighthouse lately, like way more than we are used to. And now the lighthouse is at night, not only making noises, but also glowing quite a lot.
Okay. We take, sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna say, we take that as a good omen.
Yeah, we take that as a good omen.
Okay.
I guess it's up to interpretation, but I'll get to that in a second. The problem is I have already drawn some glowy lines on the lighthouse. I'll just add some more around the bottom to make sure that now the foundation is also glowing. This lighthouse is doing its job really, really well.
Yeah.
And as my action, I would like to start a discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Because I will start with the statement that the lighthouse is not only singing for us, it is also glowing from the sea. So there clearly must be some sort of ocean deity at work, and we should definitely start a cult about this.
I'm going to come down on the other side and say, no, in fact, we need to stop the bridge building project because this is a very bad omen. As soon as we started building this bridge, it started glowing and wailing. Obviously, something is not happy. A cult is a bad idea. We need to stop trying to explore this lighthouse.
Okay. I think I'll say, I think I'm sort of the middling group of the community who are kind of like, seems like we don't know what type of deity it would be if there was a deity, so we should approach with caution, but we should still check it out.
I like it, right down the middle. Perfect. Okay, so that's the discussion. And I did want to jump in and say that we have now finished the Trebuchet project.
I would also like to note that I am going to take a token of contempt because some people would actually, I have dared to suggest that we should not finish the bridge. And I'm absolutely not up for that.
So that's a perfect opportunity to explain what contempt is. So I'm going to say the Lighthouse Cult is a group of people within this organization, and they're going to have, if you wanted to draw a little symbol of contempt next to the Lighthouse Cult. Contempt is not necessarily a hard and fast stat, but it's an indication that people in the community are not happy with other members of the community. And so the contempt just serves as an indication that there is conflict, which might spell out how further events play out in the game. If Lena wanted to resolve this conflict, she can take this contempt, she can take two actions. She can either do something very selfish on behalf of the Lighthouse Cult, or she can make amends and do something selfless, and that will resolve the contempt in the community. So either you go so far as to do something selfish that you sort of ostracize yourself completely, or you do something selfless. You don't have to resolve it, but now we have an indication of, something interesting going on. And then jumping back to the completed project, when a project is completed, even if it's on someone else's turn, if you were the person who began the project, you get to determine how the project resolves. So I started the Repair Trebuchet project. I'm going to resolve it, and this might be an opportunity for more contempt, because I'm going to say it resolves in a water filtration system. So the people repairing it decided not to make it into a defensive device. They decided to turn it into a water filtration. And as such, I'm going to move drinkable water up into one of our abundances. We have a working water pump. Sorry, I know that was a lot to resolve. I'm just going to draw some water on this trebuchet here. But that's how that project resolved. And
yeah, let's set up, I'll call a contempt for the people who wanted to use it as a defense thing. I know I was one to suggest the discussion of it in the first place, but the scared people of the community are happy about that.
Say trebuchet defense
League.
There we go. League. Yeah, if you want to toss in a little contempt indication there. There we go. Okay. Sorry, I know that was a lot of stuff that all happened at once. We're just working through that, but it'll go a bit smoother now that we know how those types of things resolve. So it's my turn now, right? Because Lena just finished her turn? Okay. So I will draw a spring card and I'll read it. I am going to say, so my card is that alarming weather patterns destroy something. How and why? I'm going to say that there is a very violent tide that comes in one night, and it actually engulfs the rock pools and it washes away all of the bioluminescent algae. So not only is that now in a scarcity, but the only source of the algae is now the lighthouse. So if we want to get any more algae, oops, I need to. Did the map just go fuzzy for everyone? There we go. Sorry about that. So no more algae in the pool. Instead, we have algae on the lighthouse. And okay, in terms of my action, I am going to, I'm going to start a project. So now that we have a lot of drinkable water available, I think we're going to start seeing if we can use some of that abundant water to maybe grow some crops near the battlefield. So I don't know what kind of crops they're going to be right now, but we're going to start maybe digging in the field a little bit, flattening some things down, and growing some little mini gardens of some kind, because we now have some fresh water to deal with. These are supposed to be like rows of of farmland. Doesn't really look like that, but that's what that is. So that also means I'm counting down the projects while I resolve this. The wall exploration project has resolved. And so, Lena, did you start that one?
Yeah.
How would you like that to resolve?
Yeah, the team is fine. They all return safely and happily. They actually brought back a few berries, which just so happen to contain seeds that we can plant now.
Okay.
But they have also discovered some traces of other living people. We are talking like recently abandoned campsites with some warm ashes still around. So they are pretty sure that there must be something or someone out there who has not actually died in the war and has recently been in that area. They did not go deep enough to actually find out who that is, but they are pretty sure there's someone.
Okay, I like that a lot. Did you want to draw like a little fire or a little campsite behind the wall or something? Well,
yeah, I'll draw a little fire. Should be easy enough. This is some nice wood and the ugliest flame on the entire map.
No problem. Oh, I'm sorry. I also just realized we didn't determine how long it would take to farm the battlefield. So now we do have seeds, but it'll take a little while maybe to prepare the ground. So I would say 3 or 4 weeks to get it started and running at least. Does anyone have thoughts on that?
I would like it to be the longer one, like the 4 weeks, because I feel we need to dig around the buried stuff. It's going to take longer. Yeah, we probably also need to figure out how to actually properly tend to those plants, because I don't think it is something we had before. So the longer amount would make sense. Okay, let's say 4 weeks to work on preparing the ground, figure out how these seeds grow, etc. And this is maybe a multi-part project for later. Actually harvesting is different because that'll take ages. Yeah, so we'll say that this is just preparing the land and figuring out how to do that. Okay, that's my turn. Go for it, Philippa. Okay, so draw a new card. It's got a little pop-up on it. It's very hard for me to read it. Hang on. Oops. Sorry, everybody. Let me just... It's going to pop up. Don't look at it.
No problem.
Okay, there we go. Right, I'll get rid of it now. Lag. Right, that was the word. Yeah. It's gone now. Oh, no. Sorry, everyone. Oh.
Okay.
I'm having issues. Apologies. I believe it was, what basic resource does the community lack? Which I think is a good one. So I think food is what we're working on, and I feel like it's becoming a more pressing issue. Like, you know, we've settled down after the war, our supplies are starting to run low. So not just like we're growing vegetables now, but we're missing out on, like, I'll say like protein in particular. So I'm going to draw that as like sort of low supply levels, basically.
Yeah.
There's some little empty stuff kind of near. Yeah. And I'll draw it as like, it's kind of low at the moment. It didn't say to add it as a scarcity or anything, so that's just what we're doing.
Okay.
Although we could, I guess it is.
We'll toss it just at the bottom, just to remind ourselves, I guess.
But yeah, in terms of like the problem that's causing it, it's bad for the kids because obviously they need to grow and, you know, they need to eat the right sort of foods. So yeah. Okay. And then for my action, I think it's tricky. Let's discover something new. So far out on in the sea, we see while the exploration team are coming back and climbing over the wall, they see some abandoned. Nope, that's a square. Some abandoned broken fishing nets that have like snagged on some rocks. So
I like that.
Rocks, and then we have some fishing nets, but they have holes in.
Okay. I like that a lot.
Oh, and then our projects.
Oh yeah, so I counted them down already. So Men's Lighthouse is on 4 more weeks, or the bridge rather, and doing the farming is 3 weeks. Awesome. Lena.
Yeah, I'll start with the card. Okay. The card actually contains the question of, are there children in the community? And I'm going to say yes, obviously there are. We are not extinct. And what is their role? And recently they've kind of just been helping out on the little field that we have set up, because it's significantly less dangerous than farming for iron on the battlefield that contains a bomb. So we put the children on the field so they don't accidentally blow us all up.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But
sorry, go ahead.
The Lighthouse Cult has looked into specifically targeting children because they are much easier to influence.
Oh, so you're trying to get sucked into the cult.
Maybe.
Okay.
I'll just draw some tiny people on the field. There we go.
Okay, so we've got kid farmers. They might be getting recruited, potentially.
In the future.
In the future, yeah. I've counted down the project clocks already, so go ahead and do an action.
Yeah. I would actually like to start a discussion because there is still that bomb on the battlefield and it's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask a question, actually. Would we like to explode that bomb in a controlled manner, which might risk damaging the wall and also losing some iron? Or do we want to spend more time into figuring out how to actually safely defuse a bomb, which might be safer, but would probably take a lot longer?
I think there's the Trebuchet Defense League is still angered by the fact that it was converted, the trebuchet was converted into a water filtration system. They actually want to convert it back and launch the bomb over the wall at the other community of people who are obviously still there and probably planning something really dangerous, obviously.
Mm-hmm. I think there's like an old guy in the community who was caught up a lot in the previous war, who has a lot of experience, and he argues that he should be allowed to defuse the bomb by himself, and if anything goes wrong, he's old anyway.
Okay.
Okay, there's
old bomb.
There's probably some people that will agree with Jenna's point, although they might be a little less extreme about it. So they would actually argue that we should probably defuse the bomb and absolutely avoid harming or even destroying the wall, because we do indeed no longer have a trebuchet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that makes sense. So no action is going to be taken, but Philippa, did you want to draw an old man who is willing to defuse a bomb? Should we start?
I will draw. Who is it in that movie? Locker.
Oh, Jeremy Renner?
Yeah, I'll draw an old Jeremy Renner.
Jeremy Renner has retired from the Avengers as Hawkeye, and now he's a bomb diffuser in the community.
It's kind of impressive that in between those things, he has actually survived a whole apocalypse.
Mm-hmm. Him over here. He's in a little rocking chair.
He's just sitting, waiting to be called upon.
Yeah, he's a bit old.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Okay. Yeah, I think we counted down everything. Lena, you've started a discussion. You've done your card. So it's back to me, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and actually that is the end of spring. So we have gone through all the spring cards. So as you can see, spring is a season of like questioning, developing, growing. We're going to move into summer, and our behind the scenes might have a better idea about this, but if we go into summer, it'll take as long as spring, so we can either take a break after we finish summer, then go into fall and winter. Do we want to keep going?
I'm good to keep going now.
Okay, great. And if anything comes up, if it's taking a bit longer than expected, we can just take a break. All right, heading into summer. I'll just put that in the chat. Okay, yeah, we'll take a break in about 20 minutes. So regardless of where we're at with the cards. So my card is, which one do I want to draw? I think a project finishes early. What led to its early completion? And I think, so here's a difference, is if you get a card that prompts you specifically to finish a project, even if someone else started the project, you get to decide. So it might cause some contempt. But I think I'm going to mend the lighthouse bridge completely. And I think what caused it to complete early is that in the process of farming the battlefield, we actually dug up some really big solid chunks of steel, that steel and iron that we hadn't been looking in that area before, but they're very structurally sound. They're great to make a bridge out of. And as such, all we had to do was apply ourselves to the building of the bridge. And so I think there is now a bridge across the water to the lighthouse. And I don't know if that causes any new contempt or frustration, but
I think it probably does. I think I don't want to think of a cool name for the people who are against the lighthouse cult. Like I think they are called by the lighthouse cult like the Dimmers, because they don't like the lights up. So the Dimmers are upset that the bridge has finished because they don't think we should like investigate.
I like that a lot. The Dimmers.
Like they don't call themselves that. Like the lighthouse cult call them that.
Yeah, yeah.
No, that's not our name. We're the normal people in the community. Stop calling us that.
Go ahead and you can mark the little contempt on that one there, but yeah, I like that a lot. So the Dimmers are obviously not happy that this bridge has been completed. For my action, I'd like to discover something new. I think, okay, I think these rocks over here that have this trapped fishing net, I think what it actually is an old lighthouse base, which has since lost the lighthouse. And as such, what is discovered is, and I know this is a bit repetitive, but the pier kind of posts of another old bridge that leads out to this lighthouse platform. This lighthouse platform does not have any bioluminescent material, but it is like a twin of the other one on the map. Yeah, and I think that's what I've discovered. I'm counting down the battlefield project, and that's my turn. Let's go ahead, Philippa.
Okay, Summer. Oh no, wait, that's the same one. Try again. Ooh. Ooh. Tricky. Okay, I'm gonna go for predators and bad omens are afoot. You are careless and someone goes missing under ominous circumstances. Who goes missing? Old man Jeremy Renner.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Has disappeared in the middle of the night.
He was like the one guy who had an important job that could be replaced.
He's gone missing under mysterious circumstances. I think the only thing we see is that, on his rocking chair, he's gone and there's a little piece of red fabric.
Oh, okay.
Which we can do with as we will. Perhaps be the rob, who knows, maybe the lighthouse cult, who knows, we'll find out. Okay, so that's what happens. Old man Jeremy Renner has disappeared. Therefore, what will I do? So can I check in about the contempt? Yes. Doing a selfish, is it the person who chose the contempt thing gets to spend it, or what?
Yeah, so I have been denoting, we just did it in colors, so I'd say you kind of started contempt, the blue for the Dimmers and some of the trebuchet defenders. So either of those I think you could resolve by yourself, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna start a project and I'm gonna resolve the trebuchet defenses contempt all about the bomb by saying they start a project to hack off half of the trebuchet to like pitch the bomb over the wall. So
Okay.
they start rejigging the trebuchet to be able to throw the bomb.
Okay. So we're starting...
which is going to solve their contempt as well, so I'll go over that.
Okay.
They're taking a very selfish act.
Yeah, so they're just taking the action to retool, I'll say weaponize trebuchet.
Which will also jeopardize our drinkable water if it succeeds.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. It's very selfish. It eliminates our water supply. How long do you think that would take?
Well, they fixed, like the trebuchet itself is fixed, but it's obviously in the water system stuff at the moment. So I feel like it would be quite quick, like maybe 2 weeks of, because they got to do it furtively, like under cover of darkness, maybe when everyone else is asleep or worshipping at the lighthouse. So does that sound okay? 2 weeks, maybe?
Yeah, it's fair. Lena, did you have any thoughts on?
Do a bit longer if you wanted.
No, I would just agree. I think it makes sense.
Okay, we'll put 2 weeks for that one because, yeah, we did establish that it's already fixed. It's just sort of retooling it so that it fires weapons instead of filters water. Okay. And that also resolves the farming the battlefield project. So, so now we have this nice farmland, and it's all even. Stuff is not necessarily growing, but maybe we've established some plants. But I think that frees the children who are working, and maybe they have a little bit more free time. Maybe they're spending a little more time watching the lighthouse at night and socializing with the folks who
they are being targeted by the cult, so obviously.
Yeah. So I think whereas maybe before they were too busy to really listen to the stories of the lighthouse cult, maybe they're a little more interested in hearing about this mysterious wailing lighthouse. And so I'm going to move the kids over. Oops, I didn't mean to squish them like that. Move them over to around the lighthouse here. And sorry, that was just me resolving a project, but now it's Lena's turn.
All right. Okay, my card says that a contingent within the community demand to be heard. And it's actually a group of people who consider themselves to be pacifists. And they very much do not agree with the trebuchet defense group that has actually broken down a part of the trebuchet, because they think that even if there's somebody beyond the wall, we should probably not start with immediately trying to shoot or launch things at them, and that we should probably try our hand with diplomacy before actually building or rebuilding the trebuchet.
Okay. I like that. I think if you wanted to mark contempt, you can put it under the trebuchet defenders, maybe, just to represent that there's now a new conflict between the pacifists.
Yeah,
and the continuing.
I'll just align it at the right, so it's a bit more obvious that that is not exactly the same group, but somehow in the same area.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, there are no projects that finish this turn, I think.
No, I'll count down the weaponizing the trebuchet, so that's ticking ever closer, but we don't have any that finished.
All right, that list is pretty bleak, so I'll start a new project. Because the lighthouse cult is absolutely alive. They have found a new platform. They have received children that are now bored, and they will definitely put them to a better use. And the lighthouse cult will actually start to rebuild the other bridge.
Okay.
With the children, obviously, because that is a great idea.
Yes, and illusion.
I think they actually do remove their token of contempt that way, because I would argue that using children for a potentially dangerous construction project is selfish.
I think so too, yes.
I think the dimmers are unhappy.
Probably, but that's not my problem right now.
Give them a little.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my turn. Oh,
Okay.
we should probably talk about how long that bridge is in the making. I think we actually took like 6 weeks for the last bridge. And I would argue that this bridge takes a little less time because we kind of figured it out before, but we still have a material problem. And we are also working with children. So maybe I will just tone that down to 5 weeks instead of 6.
Sounds good.
I agree. We know how to do this, but we need the resources.
Yeah, also the hands are very tiny.
Yes. Okay, so we're, if you want to, we can move the children up to there, and if you wanted to draw some representation that these kids are now working on the bridge with the cult, you can add that to the map.
Yeah, draw a little hammer. And part of a bridge they are trying.
Okay, I think that's my turn. I'll grab a card, check it out. Ooh. Okay. My card is, I'm trying to decide. Okay. Outsiders arrive in the area. Why are they a threat? And how are they vulnerable? So I think a small contingent of the, I'm going to try to, oh no, I'm just pulling them apart piece by piece. I think we're just calling them the red shirts. Oh shoot, I'm dragging the whole structure with them. I'll redraw them down below.
Yeah, redraw them.
Yeah, I think a contingent comes over the wall of these red shirts. And they, I'm trying to copy it. This person is very large, wearing a dress now, but the red shirts come back and they actually, they're dangerous because they actually have old Jeremy Renner with them.
Oh
no.
Yeah, they have old Jeremy Renner, who's going to be this old man with his cane, because he actually was one point lived on the other side of the wall, and he knows the secrets of the other side of the wall, and he didn't get stolen. He actually just decided to go back and rejoin his old group. So that's how they're dangerous, is they have the control of this very valuable member, but they are vulnerable because, as we mentioned, they hate water to the point where they're actually, they have like a weird intolerance to it. It's not just a dislike, it's actually like a sort of allergy or mystical repulsion. So they come in because they see that we're building this trebuchet, we're unearthing bombs, they're a little bit nervous. Jeremy Renner has told them what's up. And they've come to, maybe broker peace or something, I don't know. Or whatever,
I mean, we
don't know
also kind of started worshipping the sea, which might not be ideal right now.
Yeah, exactly. So they are here. And I'm going to keep pushing for, I'm going to start a project that, it's not very exciting, but I'm going to start a project where we actually start tending to the berries. So now that it's summer, we're actually growing the berry shrubs. We're actually like trying to get a crop from it. So we've prepared the land. Now we're actually trying to, oh, that's a square. We're trying to get food from it. I think this would maybe take 5 or 6 weeks. It takes a little while for food to grow. I don't know if anyone has thoughts on that.
You have to like 6 weeks.
Okay. Okay. These are just little berry shrubs. I'll add that. So we have weaponized the trebuchet as these newcomers have arrived. So who started that one? Was that?
That was me.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
So how does that resolve?
So we have weaponized trebuchet, which means we've shut off the water filtration system. So our drink of water is scarce again for now.
Oh, yes.
And the Trebuchet Defense League, okay. I think, yeah, they set it up and they put the bomb in it and they fling it over the wall. And I think, yeah, I think it lands. I don't think it goes as far as they thought it would go, and so it just explodes part of the wall, and like breaks it down. I feel like
okay.
That resolves.
I think actually for that I'll put another token of contempt to the Trebuchet Defense Pacifist subgroup.
Yeah.
Definitely. Oh yeah.
Because that is exactly what they said would happen. And now it has happened,
yeah.
and they are not happy about this.
So and redraw a big hole in the wall.
I'm going to add the red shirts and do a contempt for them because I think they are very mad.
I think it blew up part of their camp. I think because they were visiting, I think they didn't die, but it's destroyed some of their stuff.
Yeah.
So they're red.
All right. I'm going to mark that for the red shirts. Okay. Did you want to? Oh, you've drawn a chunk of the wall that's now gone. Excellent. Okay. I think that was all my turn. So Philippa, your turn. And I think we've got just a few minutes left. So after your turn, Philippa, maybe we'll take a break, 15 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay. Ooh. Okay, I like this. You discover a cache of supplies or resources, add a new abundance.
Ooh.
I think the lighthouse cult discover in the lighthouse. I think they discover. Okay, so it's something that we'll need. I think they discover a big supply of, like, I don't want to say old furniture, but maybe like building supplies, for like building a more long-term home. And so by taking like both the space in the lighthouse itself and then the stuff that we gather from the surrounding rocks and things, I think it gives us like, let's be specific. Let's say like rocks.
Rocks, okay.
That help us build stuff. So we have an abundance of rocks.
Rocks and building supply. Yeah, okay.
So that's a new abundance, yeah. Okay. Okay, cool. So now I would like to discover something new. And what happens is when they go to we've crossed the bridge to the lighthouse cult go in, and as they're exploring, someone discovers a trap door that leads down into a tunnel that actually goes like under the water.
Cool. Okay. Would you like to draw the tunnel and draw the rocks that we now have abundance of?
And I think in the tunnel there's like more of that algae.
Okay.
Draw some rocks as well. So yeah, there's lots of rocks we can chip off and use as building supplies. Cool.
Awesome.
What's up?
Okay, we are going to take a little break. We're going to jump back into summer once we come back, but we'll be 10, 15 minutes. So
yeah, maybe 10.
Yeah, 10 sounds good. So yeah, come back and join us then, and we will jump back into our exciting tale. Hey everyone, welcome back. Yeah, thanks to everyone joining and watching. We're gonna jump back into this. So we ended off in we're still in summer, and things are heating up. The people from the other side of the wall have come to our side. They've brought over elderly Jerry Renner. We have a cult of children building a bridge to a secondary lighthouse location. So yeah, I think, Philippa, you ended your last turn, so it'd be Lena's turn now?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm going to say that the eldest among us dies.
Oh.
And he was actually in the lighthouse cult.
Okay.
And he was even the leader of the lighthouse cult because, you know, he had the most life experience. He actually knew enough about populism, I guess, to effectively lead the cult. And in an attempt to make himself even more important and even more holy, he has actually gone into the tunnel below the lighthouse alone.
Ooh.
And he has never come back. And now he's just been declared dead because the community has lost hope that he will ever return or be discovered again.
Okay.
So he went down there and now he is gone. I think
Lighthouse leader is gone. Yeah.
I think I'll draw a little rough skull, some bones. Beautiful. A simple cross would have been much easier.
I like it though. So okay. So the cult is without a leader. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, they are out of leader. I think no projects resolved, so I have to do things now.
Yeah, go for an action.
I think I will start a discussion within the cult because they kind of just lost their whole leader and that's not so good. So the cult will actually have to make a decision. Most of their workforce is still building that second bridge, but now the tunnel has proven to be a bit of a problem. So the question that the cult is currently looking at is, do they keep all the children at the bridge to get that done, or do they actually divert some workforce to safely explore the tunnel and maybe not send one whole guy down there alone?
I think the cult is divided among the, what should we call them? I don't know, the Lighthouse 1 and Lighthouse 2, whatever we want to call them. But there's a faction who are now, they see this disappearance as an omen that they should only put all of their efforts towards building the bridge. And in fact, we should avoid the old lighthouse altogether. That lighthouse is now dead. It's a bad omen. Ignore it. Focus all of our efforts into building this bridge, and we'll find true salvation at this new lighthouse location.
I think a charismatic young woman sort of pushes herself forward and declares that the previous leader was a heretic, and that's why he died in the tunnel. We should go down in the tunnel, and we should, you know, take all the algae for ourselves. That's what the true reason for the tunnel existing was for us to gather more algae. And we shouldn't be diverted from that cause.
And Lena, do you come down on either side of that debate?
I think both sides are actually somewhat reasonable. I personally think that there are some people who do actually think that the first lighthouse should also be maintained, but the tunnel should actually be off limits. Like the lighthouse is actually above the surface, so it was clearly given to us by the sea deity. But because the tunnel is below the surface, we should just maybe close that trapdoor and never open it again. And maybe put a little altar around it so we can worship the door, I guess.
I like that. I marked some content just to show the split within the lighthouse cult. So we've got these varying opinions about what should be done with these two lighthouses. Okay, we didn't resolve any projects, so I will go ahead and draw another card. Okay, this one is tough. I am not 100% sure which direction to follow. I think I will, I think because we're still looking for a protein source to supplement our food, and the children are just building this bridge the fish net was maybe, people thought they could maybe go fishing with this net, but the cult has kind of taken over that whole project. So we're looking for an alternate source of protein. And I think people are going to start excavating this washed out tidal pool to try and harvest clams that sometimes that used to grow in the tidal pools before it got washed out. So I think they're going to start like a little excavation project to make it into a friendly tidal pool once again for some clam beds. So we'll just mark a little person here working on. Working on the clam beds. And I think because we kind of know what it looked like before, we've got a certain level of reference. I think we may have lost Philippa there, but I'll just keep going. Got a certain level of reference for what it looked like before, but obviously it's going to be kind of labor intensive, and our labor is kind of split right now. So I don't know. I think this might take 3 or 4 weeks. What do you think, Lena? Does that seem fair?
Yeah, I think I would actually go towards 3, because maybe the children are very much busy with the cult, but they are also the children. So the pool probably has a stronger part of the workforce.
True. Okay. So we've got the adults are working on the clam beds while the children build the bridge.
Yeah.
That's
as
perfect.
It should be.
Yeah, as it should be. As the children slave away on or work away on the bridge, the able-bodied adults do this very easy clam bed digging. Okay. Philippa's back.
Yeah, hello.
Sorry about that.
But I think I am going to shake things up. I'm going to, because that was a project I started because of the card, I take an action that's separate from that project. I'm going to say that we make a discovery, and the discovery is in fact that the cult leader reappears on the other lighthouse rock.
Oh.
Because it actually was a tunnel that leads to the other lighthouse. And
does he look fine, or are there some extra tentacles? Is he dead?
I think his veins glow with the same bioluminescence as the green algae.
Oh, that is probably good. They would think that is good.
Yeah, so I think he emerges victorious. He's very strong, even though he was elderly, but he's glowing. So, yeah. So there he is. He's emerged, and he's yelling across because he's still kind of stuck in this tunnel on this rock. But he says, don't fear. It's safe. The tunnel leads to here. That kind of stuff. I'm stronger than ever. I'm better than ever. And I didn't count down these other projects, so I will do that.
I would like to do some contempt for let's give the young lady who was trying to take over the cults.
Ooh.
Take some contempt. Let's call her Charlotte. I think Charlotte is pretty upset about all of this.
Okay. You can make a spot for her, or I can.
Could you type it and I'll do a little bit?
Yeah, let me just running out of space.
I think the people who were previously a bit split about actually not opening that door ever again would probably convert to the tunnel group at that point.
Yeah,
because they were mighty afraid of the tunnel, but it has turned out to be something very good for them, so they will just run right over to the other group.
Yeah, but yes, so she's left on her own, rather upset.
Okay, so Charlotte is over here. Everyone else has joined tunnel cult group. Excellent. Okay, so that is my turn. We're moving on to Philippa.
Okay. So we've got some what's going on? Right. Okay. Oh, interesting. Ooh, both these fun. Should I do it the right way? Yeah, okay. Someone tries to take control of the community by force. Do they succeed? Why do they do this? So I've got so many options here. I think Charlotte is going to try and take control of the kids working on the lighthouse. And she's going to, because I think she's been like helping teach them about the cult of the lighthouse and how they listen to it at night. And, you know, you've got to go as close to it as possible in the low tide and stuff. And so she tries to convert them over to like, you know, you should only listen to me. But I don't think it succeeds. I think they realize she's just scamming them basically, and so she leaves the lighthouse and sets up a little tent further down the beach. So I'm going to draw her own little tent here.
Okay. Charlotte unsuccessfully tried to grab some power. So we have resolved mending the lighthouse bridge.
Yes.
While all this happens. Who started that one?
I think I did, but I'm not sure.
Yes. I think so, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the cult is still alive and kicking. They're actually doing great because they now have a landline connection to their new saint. And they actually use that quite a lot because he did say that he can just go through the tunnel and come out at the other side, but he actually advises his followers not to do that for some reason that he won't disclose to anyone else. But now the lighthouse cult has actually 2 operating bases. They return the fishnet to the rest of the community because they don't really need that for anything. It's not glowing, so they don't want that. And they now have 2 happy bases, 1 saint, and a group of children that is just very, very certain about their beliefs. Like Charlotte tried to divert them before, but that didn't work, and so she accidentally just strengthened their ideas.
Oh no. This is Breaking Bad for these cult children. That's great though. Okay. I'm just drawing that we have now a fishnet within the camp because that's how this.
I'll just finish the bridge here. Oh no, it's a bit squiggly. That's fine.
That's all right. They're kids. They probably didn't build the straightest bridge, but it works.
Yeah, it's not a good bridge, but it has broken down so far, and like 2 people already walked across it.
Yeah.
And then my action.
And then your action, yes.
Okay, I'm going to start a discussion. My statement is the red shirts are taking up too many resources. We should make them fish if they want to stay.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. The Zoom windows are switched up since the reconnect, and now I'm just extra confused. So while I do agree that this would rationally be a very good idea, the red shirts don't seem to be too happy about standing close to the sea. And maybe we shouldn't force them to do that because they might not enjoy that. And they do have the bomb man, which could be a problem.
Yeah, I'm going to come down on that side and say that the red shirts themselves are saying, no, we can't fish. That puts us in way too much danger. We will help in other ways, but you can't make us do this fishing. Yeah.
More conflict soon.
Mm-hmm. I think that's...
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, so Lena, go for it. I'm drawing a little fish next to the red shirts and a question mark, like, are we going to make him fish? Are we not? There we go.
Oh no, I cannot draw from Summer anymore.
Oh, so that means
that we are out of cards. So Summer has just ended.
Okay, so I'm going to hide Spring and Summer, and we've got Autumn and Winter left. So go ahead and move into Autumn.
Yeah. A project finishes early. Which one and why?
Mm-hmm.
I think... Are we still excavating the rock pools? Is that a project or did that just happen? Oh, the clam beds.
Clam beds,
yeah.
Okay, I think that one finishes early because the cult is actually doing so great, has set up the 2 bases already. And with the clam beds, they will probably excavate some more glowing algae, which they are very much into. They just slap those algae all over the place anyways. They want those. So they actually send the kids over there to help out, and that's just why it was faster.
Okay. So the...
helps with our protein food source.
Oh yeah, I think I actually have to resolve that now because it was my card.
The clam beds, or well, you just resolved it there, so that's good. So we'll move protein up there. We've got clams now.
Bioluminescent algae is probably also no longer a scarcity.
Now our bridge is again,
I mean, we have a tunnel full of those, and now also the rocky pool.
So maybe I'll put the rocks. Maybe we had to use some of the rocks to build up the tide pool again, and we had to use the iron to fix up the bridge. So those are no longer abundances, but we do have lots more bioluminescent algae and protein. Are you seeing that I'm moving stuff around? It told me my server connection was interrupted, but is everything in the right place now?
Yeah, I can see it, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And so you still get to take an action, Lena.
Yeah. I'll surely come up with a very good idea. I think we should actually start a project to train the guest red shirts for our farmlands. Like someone needs to set them up with tools and knowledge because our crops are not near the sea and they can work there and not have a good reason to try to get out of that. So we'll just hand them some tools, tell them what to do there, and train them to tend our crops.
Okay.
We've had those crops for a while. We are basically just training them and giving them tools that we already have. So I think a week should actually be enough.
Yeah, they're just learning how it works,
Yeah. So we already have it set up. So we're training the red shirts to do our farming for us. Sounds good. And that'll just take 1 week. I think that's reasonable. We already have everything set up. We're just telling them how to do it. Oops. Okay. Is that showing up? I just put a tick in training the red shirts.
It doesn't show up for me, but I did have an error message earlier, so I will just reconnect.
Yeah, I might have to reconnect as well.
Let's just all do it, just for fun.
We're just going to reconnect just to make sure that all the stuff that's happened to the map has been reflected in the map. Let's see. Most of it is there for me, but it seems like my, oh, no, my text is now back. So, all right. So we have mended the lighthouse bridge. That's different. Move the clam beds up. Sorry, folks, we're just resolving this all. Grow berries, had one left, and train red shirts. And those will each have one. Okay, I think we should be good to go again. All right, and that would be my turn to grab a card. And so I shall do that. Autumn. Okay. Okay. This is interesting because the projects that we kind of have are a little mundane at this point, but and the ones that we do have are kind of interspersed. So the community becomes obsessed with a single project, which one and why. And I will share this with you folks because they're kind of complex and maybe we can talk this through together, but either they decide to take more time and ensure that it's perfect, which adds 3 weeks to the project die, or they drop everything else to work on it and all the other projects fail. But because growing berries and training the red shirts are kind of interspersed, maybe it shifts. Maybe instead of training the red shirts to grow food, there's a contingent that actually wants to train the red shirts to provide reconnaissance and information about the weapons and stuff that are buried in the battlefield. And so we're still training the red shirts, but the stuff related to growing the crops has actually failed. We are instead training them to, maybe not training, but we're now convincing them to like work with us and show us where all the weapons and things are buried under the ground to provide a map for us. So
yeah. Maybe the Trebuchet Defense League got under everyone's skin and was like, we need more defense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I like that.
I think it would make sense to go that route and just say it takes red shirts longer to train that because they are now doing something that is way more complex.
Yeah, so we'll add the extra to that one. And well, maybe growing berries is still underway. It's less important because we don't have the red shirts to do it for us. So I'll just leave the one tick mark on that one. Okay. Good. Thank you for your help with that. Okay. I think I'm going to start a project to repair the fishing net to help us fish some more. So even though the red shirts won't fish for us, maybe there's another contingent now that the clam beds have been finished. The folks working on that are going to repair the fishing net and try to get some food in terms of other fish and stuff. So repair nets. And I don't know, that might take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, repair them up and then figure out how to catch fish with them.
Yeah, makes sense. Maybe if we also include actually figuring out how to fish, we should put it more at 3 weeks.
Yeah, sounds good.
Sure, 3 weeks. So yeah, I think this maybe this contingent, just to add a little flavor, the people working, I think there's the people doing the red shirts stuff and the Trebuchet Defense League and the cult. And then there's just this group of people who are like, we just want to survive. We just want to get some fish and some clam beds. And they're like, we don't care about any of this cult stuff or any of these lighthouses. Please just, we all need to work together. So I think maybe the farmers or the industrial people, I'll add like a contempt within them they're just so mad at all these little side projects. They're just trying to survive. And that's the flavor that I'll throw into there. So
I like how we now have a subgroup, a distinct subgroup that is just sensible people.
Yeah, the sensible ones. That's what we'll call them, in fact, the sensible ones. Sensible ones. Getting a little crowded in the contempt area there, but that's okay. And that's my turn. So sorry, go ahead there, Philippa.
Okay, so awesome. Okay, someone sabotages a project and the project fails as a result. Who did this and why? I think. Okay. I think our the algae saint comes down from his lighthouse, and he destroys all of the berries during the full moon, because he believes, now having spent some time in the tunnels and supping on the algae, he is convinced that the only thing you need to survive is the algae, and so he thinks that anyone who's eating the berries is wrong, and so he destroys he cuts down all the berry bushes.
Ooh, I like that a lot.
So our growing berries fails.
I'll fail that one. Do you you can draw the berry bushes all destroyed or something, or yeah,
I'm gonna draw some cut down things.
And I feel like that would definitely create some contempt among maybe the sensible ones again. They'll have a double contempt or something.
Oh no, we have like 5 sane people and they are not having a good time.
Yeah. I'll mark that in your color, Philippa, just so that we both kind of have like a contempt we could resolve with the sensible ones. Yeah.
Sure. I feel the dimmers and the sensible ones get on quite well as well.
Oh, yes, that's true. Maybe the dimmers and the sensible ones have a lot of, there's a Venn diagram of overlap.
Yeah.
Okay. But I am going to count down. So training the red shirts and the repairing nets have been counted down.
Great. Okay, and then my action. So I can discover something, I can discuss or do a project. Can I discover something that's not necessarily like a literal thing?
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah, so I think that let's lean into that theme. Algae Man has discovered that if you drink the algae, he's discovered if you drink the algae, obviously it makes you glow, but also you don't need to like eat a lot of other food. But the discovery is also compared with like, notice that like he is not making sense anymore. Like, obviously he's not making sense anyway, but like he's proclaiming all of these strange visions and things. So the discovery is like the algae can be eaten, but it is I think it's a hallucinogenic is what it is.
Ooh,
so
okay.
Discovery. So I'll draw some sort of cool psychedelic lines on the algae.
So he's getting more and more self-sufficient, but also more and more disconnected from reality.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
The psychedelic lines of the algae.
Very nice.
Yeah. All right, Lena, go for it.
Okay, this one is fairly easy. I'm going to say that a small gang of marauders is making its way through local terrain. How many are there and what weapons do they carry? Now, the problem is we have taken on some red shirts, but we have previously ignored the fact that there might have been more that have been left behind previously. And we kind of absorbed the red shirts that have come to us, and the other guys are kind of wondering where those people went. And now they've arrived. I'm gonna say a group of about 20 to 30 people, so they could actually be a considerable threat for us. And they do have forged blades, so I think compared to our own standard, they are a little more progressive, which actually makes them more dangerous for us. Because while they are definitely fewer in numbers, they might actually, in a conflict or even in a combat, be way more effective than we are. So should we decide to fight them, that's going to hurt probably.
So have they come to the other side of the wall into our camp, or are they camped out on their side for now?
I think they are currently standing at that little cavity that we have made previously. How did that happen again?
The bomb. Trebuchet
Yes.
shenanigans.
Oh yeah. So they are standing on the other side of that, and they are looking kind of pissed, and they could very obviously just easily step through that.
Okay, I like that. And in fact, the way that Philippa drew them earlier makes them look like they're angry and contemplative. So I'm just going to type 20 to 30 so we know that there's like a bunch of them. But if you wanted to add swords or something, Lena, and to show that they are armed.
Yeah, I'm going to do the greatest. Maybe not with the selection tool. There, that's a sword. Maybe he has a dagger. It just looks almost the same, but it's a bit shorter.
Excellent. We got swords and daggers. We got 20 to 30 of these guys. They're just standing like, what is happening with this wall here? I love it. I counted down the project clock, so those are good, but you can take an action now.
Yeah, I think maybe since we might be about to get stabbed, this is a very good time to start a discussion.
Yep.
This is probably initiated by the dimmest and the sensible ones who are more or less quite the same group. Because the cult is definitely busy getting high on ALJ, so they might not be available. But like the 5 sane people that we got are now not only busy with drugged cultists, but also with armed strangers. And they now have to discuss whether they want to try their hand at open combat or whether they should actually try to talk to the outsiders.
Okay. So this is the question that's being posed.
Yeah.
Trebuchet Defense League's gonna come in hard and say we should use the trebuchet. It's still functional.
Yeah, that's what we made it for. Gotta use it.
Yeah. That's what we should do. Trebuchet Defense League say we should use the trebuchet.
I think the algae cultists are like, don't even worry about it, man. Like, the algae is going to protect us. Like, all we have to do is show them how cool the algae is, and like everyone will be friends. So don't even worry about it. And so they do nothing. They just say that we should trust the algae to take care of everyone.
Good call. Yeah, there are probably sensible people among the sensible ones who are saying, hey, we should probably try to talk to them. Like, we have integrated some of those guys into our society. We have actually made some changes for them. Like, we actively try to make the stay easier on them by moving them to a job that is away from the water. So we've been nice to them in some form. And we can probably ask them to maybe try and calm down the little bodies over there so we won't get murdered.
Very sensible. Okay, I will grab a card. So we've got some tensions brewing. We got some red shirts on the other side of the wall. Ooh. Okay. I think I know what's going to happen. The card is, you find a body. Do people recognize who it is and what happened? And I think that who it is the algae cult leader.
Oh no.
And and I think algae cult leader who was so pro algae and convincing everyone else in the algae cult to partake of this algae has been found dead, and actually the algae has like taken over his body and like grown over him, and you actually find out that like his entire inner body is just algae now. And so he didn't need to eat because he didn't have any organs or anything to, you know, he's just an algae man now. And now he's unfortunately perished. And that is what they stumble upon in the morning after one of the full moons. I'll count down these clocks. So repair the nets is complete. I believe I started that one.
Yeah.
So that's not particularly exciting, but I think the sensible ones have been working hard, and that just adds to our protein sources. So now we have fish, and we can more regularly catch fish and add that to our food supply. I think, what do I want to do for my action? I think actually, I think the sensible ones have maybe had quite enough of certain things at least. And I think they are seeing that this algae is killing people, that the decisions of the cult are harming people in the community. They're the ones catching the fish. They're the ones getting the clams. And so I think they're actually going to start a project to excavate a bomb to blow up the lighthouse and the source of the algae. And I think they're doing it kind of surreptitiously. They're doing it secretly. But I think they've maybe, they've actually enlisted the help. We haven't quite fully, okay, I won't say we've trained the red shirts yet, but maybe they'll come into play later. But we're going to excavate a lighthouse bomb to destroy this pesky lighthouse that is harming members of the community. I think because they've been very sensible, they haven't really been poking around. Obviously, they don't know what they're looking for. So I don't know if this will take 4 weeks, 5 weeks. I don't know if people have strong feelings about that.
I think I would tend toward the 4 weeks because
the
red shirts are already in training for discovering weaponry, and they are probably up for that project because the sea cult aren't exactly their closest friends.
And old man Jeremy Renner knows how to.
Oh, true. We've got old man Jeremy Renner.
He's in with the red shirts, so yeah.
Okay. So I will put repair nets up there. That is there. Excavate a lighthouse bomb to blow up the lighthouse. And that is my turn.
I feel like the lighthouse cult do not like that.
Oh.
I do have quite a lot. I personally have a lot of contempt ones already, so I'm happy for someone else to like do it in their color, if that makes sense, to deal with it. But otherwise, I think
at least for the start, maybe they're trying to do it secretly. So I don't know if that.
Yeah, if it resolves, there'll definitely be some contempt.
So you've already got a lot of contempt going around, so I think.
Yeah, exactly. I might spend some in a minute, in fact. My cat's wants to get.
Yeah, and that was mine. So Philippa, you can go ahead.
Okay, awesome. Nice. Okay. Okay. Cold autumn winds drive out your enemies. Remove a threatening force from the map and the area. So I think with those cold winter winds comes rainstorms, which the red shirts don't like water, don't like the rain. So they retreat to their shelters that are partially built like in the ground, probably to help protect them. So the red shirt force that we were worried about retreats. So maybe we can just delete the 20 to 30.
Yeah.
I think the ones who are with us probably stay, but like they probably are going to have some issues with needing anoraks.
Right.
Cool. Okay, so that's that card. And then, okay. Okay, for this, I'm going, the Dimmers have some contempt going on about the lighthouse. So they're going to start a project to rehabilitate the indoctrinated children.
Ooh, I like that a lot.
Stop them trying to eat the algae, stop them taking psychedelic drugs, and yeah, get them back on the fields and, you know, playing in the battlefield where they belong. So the Dimmers, I'm going to get rid of one of the Dimmers content ones because I think that's, you know, that's their ends.
Yeah.
And yeah, reteach the children is the project.
Unindoctrinate the children.
Yeah, but I feel like they've been doing this a while. I feel like this might be quite a long project because it's going to be a lot of back and forth. I'm thinking.
Makes sense.
Maybe
the kids built a whole
weeks.
bridge already. They are quite convinced.
Exactly, they're pretty convinced. So I'm thinking maybe even the whole 6 weeks.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm just refilling in the.
Yeah.
This is counted down, and then we are I think actually they. In cults, they call it deprogramming. So I'm going to say deprogram the children, and we'll say that takes 6 weeks.
So I'm going to draw a little. I'm going to draw a little dimmer next to the children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll add a token of contempt for the lighthouse cult because they probably did not enjoy that.
Yeah, they're probably pretty unhappy. We'll say so 6 weeks for that one. And the training of the red shirts also resolved with that. And I think someone else set them up to start farming, but then I switched it to helping us find the supplies on the. So I don't know who wants to resolve that. I think Lena, did you set that one up originally?
I think so, but because what they are actually doing now is your main direction, so I think it would be better if you resolved that.
Okay, so I think now that we've trained the red shirts, we've got a larger contingent of people excavating a lighthouse bomb. So maybe the red shirts are helping us map the area because they know what sort of craters to look like, which ones are indicative. So I don't know if we won't count down the project clock anymore, but now we've got a bigger force helping the destruction of the lighthouse crew.
Does it maybe help with our buried iron scarcity?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Let's say that it helps give an abundance because there's more people looking for stuff. We're pulling up more resources from underground. So yeah, and I think there's a contempt that the red shirts had. No, let's leave it. I think because they're doing something selfless for the community kind of because they've become part of them. But I think maybe the contempt of the red shirts behind the wall remains. So I will leave that as that. And then, sorry, so that was me resolving a project, but then Philippa, you were taking an action? Or am I?
Oh, no, it was me, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think Philippa set up the deprogramming.
The deprogramming, yeah.
Yes.
That was my action.
Okay,
yeah.
So Lena, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to say that something goes foul and supplies are ruined.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go for the protein food source. because we've been setting up fishing lately. That has gone quite well, except for that the fish now glow. And when you cut them open, they are also filled with algae.
Oh
and
no.
the cult leader has already demonstrated that maybe you should no longer be eating that. So fishing has gone away. We are now out of protein.
Ooh. I like that a lot.
That was it. I think no project will resolve this turn.
No, I'll count them all down. I don't know if you wanted to add some glowy or some dead fish to next to the net to show, but
I'll put some dead fish around here.
Mm-hmm.
These are fish and now they are dead.
Mm-hmm. R.I.P.
Look
fish.
too much like a plus sign, could leave it at that.
Okay, I like that a lot. This algae is causing a lot of problems.
Evidently, I mean, the guy was dead.
Yeah.
That wasn't good.
No.
But I'm actually going to start a new project by a splinter group of the Lighthouse cult.
Ooh.
Because even though most people agree that maybe ending up dead and full of algae is probably a bad event, they are so deep down the rabbit hole that they think that the algae state before he died was some superior state of being.
Ooh.
That he was basically, now he is in algae nirvana, and we should all try to achieve that and just eat more algae. And what the splinter group will do is go down into the tunnel and actually attempt to excavate some rooms down there so they can actually move into the tunnels.
Okay.
Nice.
So they think that this is just the best stuff.
Absolutely. They do want this.
Okay, so we will say, build a lighthouse settlement, or like they're setting up places so they can just live in the tunnel.
Yeah, they are building a fish neighborhood.
Okay.
Tunnel house.
Tunnel houses, yeah. Tunnel settlement, I'll call it. All right. How long do you think that's going to take?
I think it's going to take quite a while because it's just a small splinter group. It's not the whole cult. And they are also attempting to build under the sea. They do have some good calls because we have that whole mining border going on the map.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say maybe 5 weeks.
That makes
I'm okay with that.
sense. Yeah. We have shown that people, we've had a lot of practice building bridges and building in the water and stuff with all the children. Yeah. So
they can take that and put it underwater and it's almost the same. It will be fun.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got the lighthouse cult just keeps splintering and splintering. But that's okay. I think we've reflected that there's quite a lot of contempt going on within that group. So
I mean, Charlotte is probably doing great right now.
Yeah,
because she was against the tunnels in the first place, and now the guy who's been there is dead.
Yeah, I've been meaning to go back to Charlotte, so maybe she'll come up again soon. Right, so I think it's my turn to draw a card, so let me grab one here. Ooh. Okay. Okay. A natural disaster strikes the area, and it removes an abundance and a project fails. So I'm sorry, Lena, but I think a storm squall rises up and actually destroys both bridges.
Oh no.
And the connection to the tunnel and the tunnel settlement. And so I actually think that's cut off, and we lose our connection. We lose our bioluminescent algae again. And so that's the abundance that goes, and the project that fails is the tunnel settlement has been destroyed, or set back at least, if people are going to start it again.
But would they?
But would they? Yeah,
They're
exactly.
a bit desperate now, yeah.
So yeah, I'm just going to mark that the storm has come and swept away. I mean, they were mostly built by children, so they probably weren't particularly stable to begin with.
That is a very good point.
Yeah. All right, and so that was my card. Oh, I've just got to count these down too, but I think the what action am I going to take? Discussion. Okay. All right. We already know that there's a lot of conflict within the lighthouse cult. I think there's maybe a contingent that has maybe some of the glamour of it has washed away. They've seen their leader die. They've seen their attempts to build a settlement washed away and interrupted and destroyed. Maybe there's a few members who think maybe that worshiping this algae has been a bad idea. And so they are going to say they want to join with the sensible ones, and they want to put all their efforts towards preparing in case the red shirts come back from across the wall. And so that's their statement, is we no longer believe in the majesty of the algae and the lighthouse. We think the red shirts are an actual threat that we should be paying attention to. And then, yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I think it's time for Charlotte to come back.
Ooh.
Charlotte and her very few members who she has been sort of cultivating on the side says that it wasn't, that's the wrong focus. It wasn't the algae at all. I have been listening to the wailing of the lighthouse in the night. And that's where the true noise, that's where the true message is coming from. We should redouble our efforts to reach the lighthouse once more.
Okay.
I feel that was quite selfish of Charlotte to scupper those plans, so I'm going to...
Yeah.
Contempt.
I like that. Oh, yes, true. Lena, where do you fall in this discussion?
I think there will definitely some ex-cultists who agree with Charlotte and will just walk away with her. But I think the majority of ex-cultists does actually suddenly become sensible and agree that we should probably rebuild. And the first thing we should rebuild is the wall. Because the last time the red shirts turned up, that they could just walk in here was kind of a problem that we should maybe solve first.
Okay. Did we want to? Well, that's okay. We don't have to resolve any more contempt. We've already resolved some. So we've got sort of the factions, maybe a few remaining true believers of the algae. And then we've got some who are now the believers of the wailing of the lighthouse. And then we've got some who are the sensible red shirt defense group.
Yeah, some just step down.
Perfect. Okay, that's my turn. So go ahead, Philippa.
Have we done the projects?
I did. Yeah, I counted them down during my last one. Yeah.
The deprogramming is working.
There we go.
Okay. So let's see. Ooh. Oh, this is tricky. Okay. Someone issues a dire warning and the community leaps into action to avoid disaster. What is the warning? Start a contentious project that relates to it. I think the dire warning is coming from the Dimmers, who have been keeping an eye on what's going on, and they've noticed that Algae Man's corpse has been the algae has been kind of growing out of it, even though they buried him near to the sea and stuff. And so the contentious project is they're going to try and extend the wall to cut off this first. I think this is a big project. So the project is to build the wall to extend to cover the first, the top edge of the map, to cut off the lighthouses and the sea.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So a wall. So they think, they're worried now about the sea.
Yeah. So I'll do a dot type of wall to show.
Sure.
Show the potential project. So they want to extend it. Yeah. And we'll say up to about there because I think this would take quite a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, they want to start building. They want to extend the wall basically. Okay. So that is the contentious project.
Yeah, I think that's very contentious because no one has talked about extending this wall.
Yeah, and that's gonna, they just start, exactly. They start doing it without much discussion. It's gonna take a while, I think, because we don't have that many building supplies. So I'm imagining it's maybe a 2-part thing as well. So build the top bit of the wall and then we have another one. So maybe 4 weeks. Because there's other stuff going on and it's contentious, so people keep stealing bits of rock and stuff.
I'd say, I think the red shirts especially are very on board with blocking out as much of the sea as possible. So I think they've got help from them, and their knowledge of walls maybe helps make it 4 weeks instead of a long time.
Yeah.
I don't know. Lena, do you think that's sensible?
Yeah, it makes sense. I would add that Charlotte probably does not enjoy that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, let's add some contempt with Charlotte again.
The real fanatics of the cult no longer care if they cannot access the land, but Charlotte is still mostly sane. She probably knows that having no connection to the food at all might not be the best.
Cool. Okay, and then for my action, we have. Should we do the projects first? Because I believe we're about to excavate a lighthouse ball.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so we are excavating a lighthouse bomb, and I think that was me who set that one up. Okay. Oh gosh, how does this shake out? So. And it has to kind of benefit us somehow, but it'll maybe benefit only a particular portion of the community. So the things the access to the lighthouse has been cut off anyways. So having a bomb to blow up the lighthouse, that was the sensible ones. And maybe some of them are working on the wall. I'm just puzzling through everyone who has a stake in this.
The Trebuchet Defense League were excited to use the trebuchet thing.
The trebuchet wanted to use it. Yeah, I think maybe. I think so. Charlotte's been talking about the whaling, and that's still quite creepy. Even though there's no longer a connection, I think the whaling has maybe been getting more intense, perhaps, and so they're gonna blow up the lighthouse with the whaling coming from it. They're gonna take that trebuchet. They're gonna launch a bomb. They've excavated it, and I think they are gonna totally flatten this lighthouse. I imagine that's probably gonna cause a bunch of contempt here and there. but
I think Charlotte is pretty unhappy.
But I think the sensible ones are happy because it removes yet another distraction that is distracting people from protecting the community.
I'm going to take a contempt for Charlotte.
Yeah, I'm going to take one more for the cult because even the fanatics did not enjoy that.
Okay. And I think who's continuing? That you're continuing your turn?
It's your action. I think that was completing a project. So.
Oh.
Yeah, I think Philippa finished her turn and then the project dissolved. And now I think it's my turn.
No, I thought it was Jenny has done her card. Then I was like, oh, we should do the projects, and then you were thinking about your action.
I think that the last card that was played was someone issues a dire warning.
That was me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you just have to take an action to finish off your.
It's me. Oh, okay.
We jumped to me because it was a project that I finished.
Of course. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh gosh, it's tricky. I feel like it'll be fun to discover something. So, okay. While the red shirts are digging in the battlefield, they discover some old barrels full of a mysterious liquid that we don't know what it is yet because they are sealed.
But does it glow?
They're sealed inside metal barrels, but I think it has I think it shows that it's something bad is in it, but we can't tell what it is yet.
Ooh. Okay. I'm going to put metal barrels. They might not be super abundant, but just so that we know that we have them here.
Yeah, although let's not treat it as a resource because we don't need it, if that makes sense.
That's true. Yeah, so let's just say they're on the map. That's good enough. Yeah. Okay. Lena, go ahead.
Yeah. I think Roll20 is a bit buggy, and the last time that happened, the deck was out of cards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We are finished with autumn.
Ooh. We're finished with autumn. We are moving into winter.
Yeah.
So
shepherds could come at any time.
Yeah, so I'll just reiterate this if anyone had missed the beginning, but the winter is the final season, obviously. And so whereas we played through the whole deck for all the other seasons, the King of Spades, which is in the winter deck, is a end game no matter what. So as soon as that card is drawn, our game ends and we have to determine what happened to our community. So we're playing on a bit more of a fast clock here, but there we go. So sorry, go ahead, Lena.
Yep, I drew my card in the meantime, and I'm going to say that the winter elements leave everyone cold, tired, and miserable. So winter came hard and heavy. There are some northern sea winds that are just terribly cold. And nobody really expected that beforehand. So everyone is very busy freezing. And projects will not be advanced this week.
Oh, okay.
I think I would also like to make a discovery because there were some flooded tunnels, but there were still people down there.
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
And one of Charlotte's people, which are probably staying somewhere near the coastline where the lighthouses are, does see at night in very ominous moonlight some of their old colleagues that they remember as one of the people or some of the people that tried to live in the tunnels, standing on the rocky foundation of the second lighthouse where we have found the nets before.
Oh.
And they seem to be having some sort of get together, a bit of happy chanting. They seemed quite content to be there. They were looking glorious, perfectly healthy, maybe a bit glowing, but that's all right. And they were just standing on this foundation cut cut off from the land, living their best life over here.
Ooh, that's so creepy. Okay.
And that guy returned in the next morning to see if there was anyone still around, but of course there wasn't.
Oh, okay, so they're only out at night. Very creepy.
Or the guy is insane. We can't really tell for sure.
Oh, that's true. Okay. All right, I'm gonna grab a card. Let's see. Ooh. Okay. Winter is harsh and desperation gives rise to fear-mongering. And so I'm going to declare war on someone or something. This counts as starting a project. And I think the guy who saw the glowing people is going to declare war on the people on the rock. And so he is going to perhaps selfishly take control of the, in fact, he's gonna grab those barrels, those mystery barrels, and he's gonna work towards moving the trebuchet so they can launch the mystery barrels at the island. And whatever's in the barrels will hopefully damage that island and those people that he saw in his mania one night. So I think, I don't know. I think this project would, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks, like just getting it into position and extracting the barrels and getting them there. Do people
digging
have
them up is going to take a little while. I think it wouldn't be too long because we've got the red shirts trained. Depends if people help. Maybe like
he can probably get the trebuchet defense squad on board because they just want to use the trebuchet. They might not care too much about where they use it.
Yes.
They're just trebuchet happy. Yeah. Okay. So we've got 2 weeks. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I think 2 weeks. Okay. One to dig it up, one to position.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna cancel, or not cancel, I'm just gonna count down the other one. Deprogram the children is down to 1. Extending the wall is down to 1. And, oh boy, now I have to take an action. I think we're gonna discover something, and the wailing, which had been quiet since they destroyed the lighthouse, is now coming from the other lighthouse. Mm-hmm. And it's moved places, and it's started up again. And now it's even more frequent. It's every night instead of every week or so. And that's my turn there. Philippa, go ahead.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, okay, cool. So there's a starting bit. An infected outsider arrives seeking amnesty. They have some much needed resources with them. And we welcome them into the community. We remove a scarcity, but also introduce an infection into the community. Oh. So I think one of the red shirts from the outside community has managed to make their way back, bringing with them they have loads of stored jerky and other stored meats that they've been keeping underground. So we now have an abundance of protein food sources. However, in mingling and sharing that food, the community starts to take on that same issue with allergy to water.
Okay.
And that's our infection.
I like that a lot. So, I don't know how you wanted to pick that, but yeah, totally. Yeah, I don't know if you want to, just in time. So actually extend the wall and deprogram the children have both resolved.
Cool.
So were those both your projects?
They were, yes.
Okay.
So the wall gets extended. I think the Trebuchet Defense League actually kind of like it, and pitch in to create like a little trebuchet post where you can station the trebuchet.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so they've kind of extended it halfway along the beach to cut off the wailing noises from the lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how that's resolved. And then deprogramming the children. Yeah, I think let's move the children. Can I move them? No, I can't. I don't think I can move ones that aren't me. But the children are brought back into the community, safely away from the whaling. They have been put back to trying to like grow a few more berries and things in the fields, along with Jeremy Renner and the red shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah, safely away from the water.
They do still have their little hammer, so they are definitely helping.
Yeah, exactly. So they're put on a much safer job further away where they can't, get touched by the water and have a weird reaction and things. So that's how that resolves. Okay, and then, I feel like it's time for a discussion.
Mm-hmm.
With this new infection that has come in, I think kicking it off, I'm going to do a declaration as Charlotte and her little crew, the devotees to the lighthouses who have survived, say that this infection was caused by not listening to the lighthouse. We should move our whole community closer to the lighthouse.
Okay.
Yeah, I think actually because after the collapse of the lighthouse cult has decreased quite a lot. And a lot of people have basically converted to the sensible ones, but there were still some dormant ideas that have just been awoken again. So basically the power on the lands are a bit more balanced now. Previously it was way more sensible people than Lighthouse Cult, but after the beef jerky event, some people have returned to the cult and now it's more even again.
I'm going to do some beef jerky. In
Yeah. Okay, so we've got this kind of contingent saying that we need to reconnect to the lighthouse. I think the people who are setting up the barrel trebuchet project are saying, no, in fact, we need to commit everything to, we need to complete this whole wall. We need to cut our entire selves off because the ocean is bad news. The people coming in from outside are bad news. The only thing we can trust is our berry bushes and our clam beds and our battlefield. And that's it. We need to get everyone else out and protect ourselves.
That was me. So, Lena, it's all good.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that someone comes up with a plan to ensure safety and comfort during the coldest month. And that was actually the red shirts. They did not really come up with something new, but they did remind everyone else that they were previously living underground and that was pretty good protection from like water and cold. And it would probably be a good idea for winter to pick that habit up again. So they will start a project to build underground shelter, probably together with the sensible ones on the land side of the wall.
Okay.
I would actually say that this takes the maximum of 6 weeks because it's been flat area before. There are no caves already. They need to excavate basically everything for that.
Yeah, and like they're digging, if you're digging anywhere near the battleground, it'll be hard to like, it'll be slow to avoid bombs and things. So yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I think, I agree with that too.
Okay, and because I started that project with my action, I still get to do something else. Hmm.
The barrel trebuchet has finished? Is that?
Oh yes, I can resolve that before Lena takes an action, I guess.
Yeah, do that first because I still need a moment to think.
Okay.
Anyways.
So I think the trebuchet. Okay. I think the trebuchet the successfully launches. They launch these barrels across across the chasm here. They land on the island, and it's got a benefit in some way, but it's also, I kind of want to mix things up. So I think the wailing actually does stop. I think this maybe crumbled some of the foundation, or was enough of an assault that it disrupted something, and so the wailing stopped. And so maybe some of the hold that the wailing had on some of the of Charlotte and her group has maybe lessened a little bit. But I think the crates, well, actually, I'll leave that. I'll just say that it disrupted some of the wailing that has been plaguing the community from that side. And I'll let you go back to your action, Lena.
Okay, yeah, maybe I'll just build on top of that a little and make a discovery. Because the wailing is now less frequent, but there have been some more dead people sightings. Like a few more people have seen what that singular guy has seen. That on that little rocky foundation there are, or have previously been, the dead cultists who have flooded and drowned on the tunnel have been heavily chanting along to the wailing before. But now that there are the barrels and that the wailing has stopped, they do still see those people every now and then on the rocky foundation, but they are no longer just standing there and chanting. They actually now seem very, very angry. And they are also, previously they have kind of been busy with themselves, just standing in a circle, chatting with each other. But now every time someone stands at the coast and looks over there to check it out, the dead cultists are now staring right at them instead of just being busy with each other.
Ooh. Very creepy. I like that a lot. Okay. I will draw a card. Oh, wow. I have drawn the King of Spades, which is the end of the game. And now we get to talk about how that came to be. The game, the sort of end game force is called the Frost Shepherds, but it's up to interpretation. So I think we can maybe collectively build on how that happens. I like this idea of the folks on the island. I think by launching the barrels at them, we noticed that they've actually been prying the barrels open, and contained within these barrels is actually more of that glowing algae. And it starts off slow at first, but the algae starts like growing and coming towards the shoreline.
Can I add a bit of flavor?
Sorry, I'll pass it off to you.
Yeah,
go for it.
Can I suggest that the algae first sort of builds up into the shape of a lighthouse, but like purely of algae? And then, the beam is what like starts to spread it across. And anyone who's running away sees like the base is solidifying to look like rock, as if it is a normal lighthouse, but it's actually all algae.
Wow. Yeah, I like that. Lena, did you want to jump in? And
yeah, it's maybe not an immediate end, but once that lighthouse has been up, there's also been a light at the top. And it's not like a regular yellowish warm light of fire, but a very cold greenish light. And after the first night that this kind of creepy greenish light has hit the crop field, they have actually stopped bearing crops or berries, but instead also on the land have started growing algae. So over time, the community has just generally run out of food sources that are not infected by algae.
And anyone who didn't succumb to the algae has to flee and abandon the community.
Yeah, I think we see anyone who tried to remain just watches as the algae spreads and the crops kind of get overtaken, and eventually the land is just consumed by whatever this mysterious substance is that maybe at one point was contained, but since we've angered whoever was in the lighthouse, they've decided to just spread their influence across the whole land.
I think Charlotte succumbs. Old man Jeremy Renner was too slow.
Oh yeah.
Oh
no. The children
managed to run away.
They managed to run away. Yeah, maybe they get taken in by the red shirts. Who are actually quite sensible. Yeah.
Although I feel like even the red shirts maybe need to leave because this whole area is like becoming contaminated.
Yeah, they probably can't just sit in the same hole forever.
Yeah,
they might want to go somewhere else.
I
mean, technically, just going further inland was always an option for them. They just didn't do that.
It's true, yeah.
And when
they had
the
their
algae
reasons, we'll never know.
came into land, they had this spark of an idea. Maybe we should not be living near the coast.
Yeah, let's move, like we've been talking about. And that is the quiet year. So thank you for joining us. Thanks for playing, Lena and Philippa. I don't know if you had any comments about the game or anything you wanted to add. Yeah.
Thank you for facilitating.
Yeah, thank you for lending a hand there in the leading. I did enjoy myself quite a lot. I also just generally like Cold Tower. And it's been good fun.
Yeah. And yeah, it's
absolutely.
It's by Buried Without Ceremony, I believe.
Oh, yes.
Avery Alder.
Yes.
Who has done various other good games. So if you enjoyed it, I would recommend checking that out.
Yeah, there's like a physical version of it where you actually get the cards and tokens. You can play it when it's safe in person with paper and pen. And then there's also this Roll20 package. And you can play it as a game like this, or I've actually seen people use it as a map creation before they start a bigger campaign. So they will generate a land and like a lore around the land, and then they'll put a campaign in it. So it's pretty handy for like just generating creative ideas.
Yeah, like I feel we could go now and be like, okay, those red shirts, like, where did they go? Where did the children go? And like, what do they do next?
Yeah, we follow those red shirts, or maybe it's a prequel to this, and we want like what happened on this battlefield? Why were these weird barrels buried? Like, lots of possibilities.
Lots of questions. I like it.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for joining. Thanks so much for playing. This is the first in a series of streamed games for the women in TTRPG space. Follow Hoard of Tales to find subsequent sessions and stuff that'll be happening. And yeah, there's lots of good content coming up.
If you're putting it in your diary, next week we have Honey Heist on June the 19th. And then we have Glitter Hearts on June the 20th, which I'm running the Glitter Hearts game, so that should be fun. Awesome. And I'm sure the Honey Heist one will be fun as well. But
yeah.
Well, I need both of those to be fun because I'm in both of them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll be playing Honey Heist. I won't be playing Glitter Hearts, though.
Yeah. But yeah, as you say, keep following it on Hoard of Tales. It'll keep getting put up on their Twitter. And yeah, that's it.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.